Howdy, everyone. Welcome to Unsafe Space. I'm Carter Laren, and I'm joined, as almost always, by Keri Smith. Hey, Keri.
Hi, Carter.
How
Good
you doing?
evening.
Good evening. Today, we're very excited because we get to speak to Conservatish, Peter Feliciano. He does not fit inside boxes, and therefore he fits in all of them, at least according to him. I'll have to ask him to explain that. This talented and rebellious singer-songwriter began his podcast Conservatish in August 2018 in San Francisco after being fed up with the Bay Area's ever-present pressure that all who are morally decent must, of course, be liberal. On Conservatish, Peter speaks with conservatives, drag queens, comedians, liberals, anonymous perverts, activists, and artists, people from every walk of life and political leaning, with the ultimate goal of holding a safe space for free speech, pushing the boundaries of insane humor, and humanizing the often dehumanized. He's got YouTube channels, iTunes channels, Spotify. You can follow him all over the place. We'll put links to all that stuff below. Peter, welcome to Unsafe Space.
Hello. How are you guys?
Doing
I'm
well.
good. I love your handlebar mustache. Is that what you call that one?
I think so. Or a Fu Manchu. It
A
could
Fu
be
Manchu?
that. Yeah, people don't know.
I think you have to wax it and do this to make it a handlebar, right?
No, I'm not in Berkeley anymore. I'm not going to do that shit. Fuck that.
So
No,
you left. You're not in the Bay. You're not here anymore in the Bay Area.
You're in the Bay?
Yeah.
Oh, you poor thing. Yeah, I got out of there. I left San Francisco about a year and a half ago. Moved to Manhattan. It's a lot
Good for you.
more. Thank you very much. I do feel a lot better. I do feel.
Although Manhattan, I'm not sure that would be my top choice.
Well, as a musician, I had two options. I had Los Angeles or Manhattan, and Los Angeles is hell. So I decided to go to Manhattan. Especially like my style of comedy, my style of music is much better fitting in New York. And also I was born here. I lived my first 9 years in New York. So it made more sense for me to come here. Yeah. Do you want me to explain the boxes thing? Shall I explain the boxes thing?
I would
Yeah.
love
Can you
for you
explain
to. Yeah.
explain the boxes?
Absolutely. So I'm half Puerto Rican, a little bit black, a little bit. Oh my God, I'm looking directly at myself. This is very disturbing. Mostly Puerto Rican, a little bit English, a little bit German, and then a little bit black. And so I don't fit in the. I only have like 45% white guilt. And then also I was born in New York, moved to California when I was 9, moved back to Manhattan. So I'm not either coast really. Spent a couple years in Portland, a couple years in LA, but mostly those two places. And also I'm a musician, but I don't ever like boxes regarding those things. I also, have fooled around with some dudes over the course of my life. So I don't necessarily, it's been a while since I've gotten some head from some dudes. Gave it the junior college try. But it wasn't necessarily, so I like pulling that out when people, I like playing the identity politics game when people play the identity politics game with me. It makes me really happy to make them short circuit.
So you have some cards up your sleeve, basically, you can whip out.
Yes, and I like whipping it out. I'm not the type of person.
Why?
About you.
What was that a sex joke? I apologize. I would never do that sort of thing.
I would never. It went right over my head.
I'm a very demure. I was actually not nervous, but I was excited about coming on your show because I love your show. But I was also like, I don't know if I'm exactly. I don't know how well of a good. I mean, when I saw that you had Mark Hughes, shout out to Canadian comic Mark Hughes. When I saw that you had him on, I'm like, all right, I probably, because every other interview of yours I've seen, it's very like, no one talks about eating ass.
Serious?
You know what I mean? And so, yes.
Yeah.
Well, wait, I have
another way
a
to put
present
it.
for you. I have a present
do?
for you because I saw that you said you were studying, what'd you say? French history and calculus, right? Those were the things that you said you were studying. So, let's see if I can set this up for you. So I've got 2 questions for you. Just
For the love of God, it was a Twitter joke. Everybody, please.
No.
This is not nice.
I wanna give you a chance here. So the first question is let's see. Oh wait, you can't even see. There it goes.
Oh my God,
This is
really
your
prepared.
calculus question.
This is horseshit.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, I'd like you to minimize the function of x squared plus y squared subject to the constraint x minus 1 cubed minus y squared is 2, and you can use the Lagrangian multiplier method. You can choose that question, or you can choose this question. An anonymous monk lamented in 814 From the lands where the sun rises to western shores, people are crying and wailing. The Franks, the Romans, all Christians are stung with mourning and great worry. The young and old, glorious nobles, all lament the loss of their Caesar. To whom was he referring? So those are your 2 questions.
Well, what year was this?
814.
Oh, I see. 814.
This is
Eddie Izzard.
That's so close.
Shit. God damn it.
You're very close.
No, yeah, I was thinking because I love your show, but it's like, you know, I don't know how well I don't know.
Well,
I
I've
don't know about
never
the whole
seen
fit
Carter
thing.
pull out trivia questions for a guest before.
Well, he said he was studying French history and calculus, so I wanted
I was
to.
trying to bone up on my smarts so I could like seem more
Help him
smart
out.
than this motherfucker.
By the way, I
It
didn't know
did
the
not
answer
work
to
out.
the French one myself. It's Charlemagne, by the way, is the answer for people in chat that are. Someone got it. Oh my God! Someone
Did they
knew it.
really?
Just leave, man. You're too smart to be here. I can't.
Somebody knew that. That's funny.
This is disturbing. Doesn't a piece of you, I know you guys are both very smart, and I definitely have the desire to learn about stuff, but I'm very specific when it comes to, like, I like doing my research when it comes to making people feel foolish. I like doing my research when it comes to psychology of shit, comedy, music, that type of stuff.
What do you mean?
Stuff that meaning the stuff I'm not passionate about, i.e. motherfucking Charlemagne, a piece of me just goes like, like, I get it. I understand why. I kind of trust the scientists. I trust the people who are in charge of doing that type of stuff. Like my MO, my strength, if we are the super friends, right? I always go back to that analogy. The super friends would be, you wouldn't ask Aquaman to scale tall buildings in a single bound, and you wouldn't ask Superman to talk to fucking fish. So we all have our strengths and our passions. I'm
Like
going to college, but I don't care about math. I don't care about Charlemagne. You know what I'm saying?
Well, math is going to
I think that's fine.
it's racist, we've learned. So I don't know.
That's
You
right.
are
Yes,
studying
the answer
something.
to the answer to the Lagrange question was racism.
Racism.
You could have gotten that one right
Fantastic.
away.
Awesome.
White supremacy was the answer.
Yeah.
So for anybody, I want you to tell me a little bit about the name Conservatish, and for anybody who's not familiar with your show, just describe yourself, or how do you describe yourself politically? Because I feel like, well, this culture likes to put all of us in, you know, you're right or left. You've got to pick one, and I don't think like you said, you don't fall into boxes easily. So how would you describe your political beliefs, and have they remained stable throughout your life, or have they changed?
Well, the name of the show is Conservatish, but it's kind of tongue in cheek, meaning I knew really early on in like probably about a year and a half before I started the show, I knew that it's our definitions that get us stuck. Because I've been pretty staunchly like, I'm gonna vote for Trump for like 3 years now, right? And every single conservative that I follow, almost every single conservative who follows me, none of them hate gays. I don't know why we have this fucking idea that we're still in 1986 that conservative means that I have to put a caveat that says, you know, well, but I like gay people, or but I you know, the idea that I have to explain myself or whatever is what bothers me. So it is tongue in cheek because I'm already ahead of them. I'm trying to say conservatish in order to fuck with their definitions. But one of the taglines of the show has been like, can't I like gays and guns? Like, why does it have to be 100% in this camp or that camp? You know what I mean? And so I like finding people for my show who are going to disrupt narratives because it makes me happy. It feels something. I've always been like a rebellious douchebag in that way. But I always assumed, like you've talked about many times on this show, I always kind of assumed that I was liberal. You know what I mean? I remember, you know, when I look back at old,
Because you're an artist.
well, of course, yeah, and I'm Puerto Rican, and I'm, you know, whatever, I'm this, I'm that, you know, and plus I was in the Bay Area, and there was an assumption. There's a very hipster assumption when it comes to politics. Of course, you all believe if you're a good person, of course. I don't want to go off too many tangents, but essentially in 2016, I started doing more research before the election, and I got big into Bernie for like a couple days. And then I voted for Bernie, and then he didn't win, and then I voted for Hillary. And that night, a girl we had just broken up like a month or two prior, and she called me crying because she was like, it's the end of the world. And even though I had voted for Hillary and that I didn't like Trump, I was like, I don't really think I don't think we're gonna die. I don't like Nazi. What the fuck? Because I had known people, especially a very close family member of mine has been staunch Trump even before I heard that he was running for politics. And she likes to eat vagina. So like, you know, that was one of those, well, but you shouldn't. And so that kind of the cognitive dissonance is what really I like starting for people. It makes me happy. And so once I realized I don't think everybody's Nazi who voted for him, and then Milo was essentially the one who really did it for me. Is everybody thinks that this guy's Hitler, Satan, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, once everybody believes something, I immediately take the opposite tack. I'm like, fuck you. I'm going to do my own research into that. So I started watching some videos and fell down a rabbit hole, just like you, Keri, where it was like, oh, you know what? I don't really think, he's a little over the top. He's a little emotional, a little this, whatever. But I'm agreeing with some of what he's saying. And then I fell into Jordan Peterson. I fell into Camille Paglia, who I still adore. I fell into a bunch of different types of stuff. And from there, I realized, I don't think I'm liberal anymore, or whatever this current definition.
Whatever's currently calling itself liberal. Maybe put it that way. Yeah.
Right.
I assume in the Bay Area, though, I mean, because I've been in the Bay Area for 20 years, and it seems like recently, I'll say in the last few years, I assume that what happened is people, like for a while, you could have differing viewpoints as long as you were kind of, I'll say classically liberal about certain topics like gays and that kind of stuff, which, I was, so it didn't matter. No one really cared that I liked guns. It was a little bit weird, but okay, fine. At least I was on, quote, their side for most of politics. But, in the past few years, it's gotten, if you deviate, if you color out of the line at all, you're automatically conservative. So I'm wondering, did the word conservatish, were you called conservative? Like, did people treat you as if you were conservative because you were not coloring in the lines?
I literally started the show with that name because it's more interesting than the Peter Feliciano show. And plus it's kind of plucky and kind of, I'm being a bit of an ass. I like being like I said, I like being the pebble in people's shoe, but also because it was my coming out, essentially. It was my coming out as being this guy. For years, I'd been doing music in the Bay Area. For years, I'd been writing and performing hooks for rappers around the country, and actually one guy in Japan too. I had been doing a bunch of, and of course, there was an even more of courseness where even at every hip hop show, it needed to be, the last 2 or 3 years I was performing, at every hip hop show, it needed to be like, this song is about the struggle, and this song's about fucking police, and this song's about this, and this song's about that, where it was just like an of courseness. And it started to bother me a teensy bit, but I don't know if I ever really thought I was conservative, whatever, until a couple months before I started the show. And I'm like, you know what? I want to have a place where I can say absolutely anything, literally everything that I want, rant as freely as I can, have interesting conversations, and essentially humanize people that I want to humanize,
Yeah. Yeah. Can I ask you a question? This is something we've been talking about for a while. We keep coming back to, and then today in particular, I had some conversations about this. What is your take on where we stand culturally when it comes to comedy and music and how they've been overtaken by wokeness? Where do you think it's heading? Are we heading to a place where something's going to break out and change what is culturally dominant at the moment? Or are there any, do you have if you were to give us a preview of what you think the future holds, is there a reason for hope? Where's comedy going?
Are you asking me because my head looks like a crystal ball?
Yes, exactly. You told me not to mention your bald head.
Thank you for not doing that. It's very hurtful of me to do it to myself. That's a good question. So I've kind of taken the tack recently where I don't think it's the end of the world, and I kind of defer. I kind of split from a lot of conservatives, or really I like your guys' show because you. Again, it's the fucking labels that get us in trouble. And I was talking about it on my last show with Katie Hopkins, where I think I call it the non-leftist side or the non-liberal side. That's a big fucking tent. You know what I mean? A lot of the people who follow me are like, I look on their profile and it's like Christian patriot. I'm like, you're not gonna like some of the nasty memes I talk about, choking girls and stuff like it's not gonna go well for you to follow me. I'm a little too conservative for the liberals. I'm a little too liberal for the conservatives. So, but I take attack. Where I split with those people is I talk about, I really don't think it's the end of the world, because you can't breed out humanity that quickly. You can't breed out. So here's an example. When it comes to the analogy being sex, when it comes to the analogy being dating, you can be raw feminism all you want, but where the rubber meets the road, how real can I be on this show?
No, you can be real, because I was going to ask you about your comments about AOC with Katie Hopkins, so we're going to get into this anyway. So, so go ahead.
I'll say it exactly how I want to say it. You can be raw feminism or fourth wave feminism all you want, but where the rubber meets the road, whose pussy gets wet when I choke them? You know what I'm saying? Like where the rubber meets the road. Cover your eyes.
Right.
Talked about this on my show, Keri. Where the rubber meets the road, you want somebody fucking strong. You want somebody who you cannot steamroll. You know what I'm saying? And so you want somebody who you can respect and be like, oh, this guy, I can trust this guy. I feel safe with this guy because I can't steamroll him. I can't, whether not just muscle, but intellectually, right? So fourth wave feminism wise doesn't necessarily fit the narrative. And that's why there's a lot of unhappy women, especially in San Francisco. Let me interject here for a second.
Please. In less visual terms, what I think I hear you saying, and tell me if I'm wrong, right? But I knew a lot of women in the social justice world and social justice feminists who would date these sort of woke male feminist guys, but then privately talk about how they're attracted to and were upset with themselves for being attracted to really hyper masculine conservative types or alpha guys. Right. And I had a friend who she was always talk about it, how she was like, and she was upset with herself, and she would say, I just want a guy who like does something for a living where his hands get dirty and he knows how to fix things. But she felt that was a problem. And that wasn't the kind of guys she dated. It was almost like she was trying to change she wished she could change what she was attracted to.
Well, they hate their own biology. That's just part of being a leftist. So
right. Exactly right. And that's why I brought that up, because you cannot breed humanity out that quickly. Essentially the unhappiness, the unsatisfied sex life, the unsatisfied art life, the unsatisfied whatever will catch up to you. It's nipping at everybody's heels, every leftist heels. And so that's why they're surprised when, consent is sexy. And then in the back of their heads, they don't tell other people, but I fucking know, because I've talked to you motherfuckers and I've listened to a lot of sometimes, a lot of times there are rape fantasies out there. God forbid. I don't know why I have this.
Not just sometimes. I think it's one of the most popular fantasies there is for American women. Yeah,
actually,
we never fucking talk about it.
No. So we did back when I was still working in comedy with some, woke comedians. There was one comic we were working on a pitch for a show, and one of the episodes was about porn, and we did a lot of research about porn statistics. I know there's a joke to be made there, but we did a lot of research about stats. And one of the things we found was that, one of the search terms that women use when they're searching for porn, rape fantasy was like in the top 3. I think it might've been the number 1.
Oh yeah, no, it is. It is. Yeah. I mean, I don't talk about this on the show, but I'm on the board of a sex toy company. Absolutely. That is a fantasy. Like, I know that industry. Yes, it is a fantasy. It is it's a well-documented fantasy. Everyone knows. And I have a question for you though. So I think that something's happened to guys, because if you want to be a moral man, you've been given a false dichotomy by society, which is you've got to let go of your masculinity to be a moral man. The way to be a moral man is to be a pathetic beta, right? And to be obsequious, follow the woman around and always defer to her, and be this pathetic beta. And guys that want to be moral feel like they need to give up their masculinity in order to do that. And so what you get left with, the guys who are actually embrace their masculinity, tends to also be, I'll say, quote, bad boys, guys who actually aren't even moral. You end up with most of the masculine people left are actually, I would say, not as moral as the general population, because they're the ones who actually feel good about being men and they don't give a crap about being good. And so I think there's this infectious problem where when you raise a young man and tell him to be moral, you've got to be a beta, you're going to end up usurping, you're going to end up corrupting what otherwise would be the moral masculine men, and you're going to get left with, immoral masculine men as the only masculine men left.
Right.
So I'm wondering if that rings true for you or if that's just bullcrap.
No, it absolutely rings true for me. In fact, one of my big things is that if femininity or emotionality, whatever you want to call it, which is an important part of our lives, it's an important part of humanity and our culture and all that stuff. But if it's running amok, it's not girls' fucking fault. You do not blame the tiger for attacking Roy. You know what I mean?
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So we're all dirty little animals in our own wonderful way. And I think it's masculinity's fault. So I'll bring it this far, or into a realm that I'm comfortable with. Again, surprise, surprise, sex. When it comes to a good dominant male, like in the BDSM world, I hate saying that fucking phrase, but it is what it is. So in that world, a true dominant is not a selfish douchebag. A true dominant is not going to actually abuse a motherfucker. It's motherfuckers who are insecure about their masculinity that have to abuse, that have to run rampant, that have to not listen to a girl, not pay attention. It's real ass fucking dominance. Sense energy, are open, and after fucking her up, are also quite, like, to me, cuddle, bitch. Like, fucking let's do it. You know what I mean? I love that shit. After some rough, crazy, whatever. But it's about sensing the energy and being true to my own energy as well. And when that happens, it opens it up. It's not like, okay, if I give myself over to this masculine energy, if I'm a woman, if I give myself over to this masculine energy, I'm not going to have a voice. Bullshit. Maybe back way long ago, but shit has changed. You know what I mean? The old version of masculinity running amok was we could beat the shit out of you and have no consequences or very little consequences because, well, we're married. Well, now the opposite has happened. And, I think I think they justify it by, like any child, well, you guys had it for a long time, so now we have to. And I was having a long conversation with Unlearn and Lil MC, a couple of rappers on my show last month, where that knee-jerk justification happens very quickly. Well, white people are I was complaining about white people not getting a fair shake, and he was like, well, you guys had it good for a long time. I'm like, whoa. Where in what fucking world is immaturity ever sustainable for a long time? In what world, if I have two kids and one of them I give a candy and the other one I don't, if he goes, meh, and pisses all over and throws a tantrum, do I go, I'm sorry, please take this candy, and now you have to take another, and now you have to, because it's an insatiable energy. Never is it sustainable. Never is it a mature way to even things out or make people feel okay. The even Stevens is what I talk about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's also just completely immoral because you weren't responsible for the stuff that white people did 100 years ago. You're your own person.
You're only 45% responsible.
Right. Yeah.
Well, so I'll only say 45% reparations.
Yeah.
Yeah. 46.
But yeah, but they, if you turned around, you could use the same philosophical premise and turn around and say to them, oh, here are some traits that your identity group is bad at. I will now ascribe them all to you and punish you. So, for example, your identity group might have a higher violent crime rate, so I'm going to put you in jail because I assume that you're more likely to be violent, so I'm going to treat you harsher. That's immoral, but it's the exact same logic.
Yeah, it is. Side note, by the way, to everybody out there who's interested, Black people are 13% of the population, and yet 53% of the murders, 60% of robberies, and just in case people say, well, that's all the racist cops. Even if half of those arrests were just evil racist cops and the Black person did nothing wrong, it's still double what it should be. right?
They're not actually racist because they've also done studies. They've done victim studies
Yeah.
to verify that data is correct. It's not about arrests. It's actually about victims of crime that have been hurt. So that's
Right.
Don't even concede the 50%.
And by the way, the white people are about 60-ish% of the population, and yet 85% of DUI arrests. That was an interesting thing. So they're being unfairly pulled over as well. Sorry, Keri, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't know those DUI rates. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think also it's a higher percentage of murder victims are Black, because
yes, that's true.
Most crime happens like intraracially. So most white people are attacking other white people, and most Black people are attacking other Black people. Crime tends to be this more often than not an intraracial thing, and so part of that statistic is like the other side of it. It's also like higher percentage of murder victims.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally.
I had a question actually for Keri.
Mm-hmm.
Keri, before you started changing and you were a social justice warrior, how did you sleep at night? How much melatonin, how much sleepy time tea did you have to swig down before you could?
Well, I drank back then. So yeah, so it was more of a question of how much wine.
Nice.
Yeah. It's interesting. I believed that I was doing good. I believed in the way that social justice sells itself, which is that it's this belief system that's going to help us to eradicate the world of oppression and eradicate the world of bigotry and racism and sexism. And I believed that. But deep down, and I think this is probably true. I mean, I have no evidence of this, but I think it's true based on the people I know who are still in it, and based on what I like trying to make extrapolate based on what was true for me, is there was always something off in my gut, like something a bit off. Even though I believed in it, I didn't feel, when I look back at myself now, I'm like, I always felt a little bit like this sort of low grade anxiety, and just, I don't know, like not authentic. And I think that comes from, even if you're not cognizant of the fact that what you're speaking are lies, and that deep down part of you knows, even if you're not aware of it, even if you believe the lies yourself. Does that make sense? And I think a lot of them have that cognitive dissonance, and I think a lot of them are. That's why, I mean, a lot of those social justice people I know, the people who are still in it, they're like deeply unhappy. And I know that can be true for anyone. You don't have to be a social justice person to struggle with mental health issues or to be unhappy or whatever, but it seems like a disproportionate number of social justice people are just kind of miserable and don't really understand why they're miserable. And it becomes really convenient to blame it on, the patriarchy and white supremacist culture. And there's always something outside of yourself to blame it on. And instead of really, they blame it on, Trump was great. Trump was a great thing to point to and say, that's why I'm upset. And then go on social media and say, like, what meds are you guys taking? Like, tell me, I saw so many posts like that. They'll be like, I just can't stand living in this world where he's president. By the way, what medications are you guys on? Because I need some recommendations.
Right.
I goes, what?
Right.
I don't know. Anyway, I hope that answers.
No, it does. Because I think, as far as my role in the Super Friends, is the more psychological angle. You know what I mean? I think it's easy to go, everybody who AOC hates her country. Like, nah, like that's not only is it lazy, it's not effective. We're not going to move forward if you just say, if you do the exact same fucking thing that they did to us for the last 4 years and just say evil, racist, blah, blah, blah. Not going to listen. No. I like having liberals on my show. And the majority of them are actually quite fucking reasonable when you take them off of social media and you get them alone for some. Even then, coming on the show is an example of them being, salvageable. Essentially, you know what I mean? But getting into the psychology angle of it is kind of that's where my passion is, because I want to save these motherfuckers. Like, and I don't think you have to agree. I mean, this is my fucking shirt that I designed. I don't think we all have to agree on politics in order for us to get together. But, and you probably relate to this, Carter, in the Bay Area and in New York, I have never never had someone assume that I was a Trump supporter. I have had every single time I'm in an Uber. I was driving Uber for a year and a half, 2 years. I was in Starbucks. I was in this. I was in that. It would be like, isn't it crazy what Trump's doing? And I'm like, what? Who? We're in a fucking public setting. We don't know each other. The rudeness and immaturity for you to just assume, what is it? Because I look racially ambiguous? What the fuck is the reason for you to bring that rudeness to my life? And it's because I like getting into the psychology of it and affecting people. I think that's, to go back to the Milo thing, that's what was helpful about him. Because if someone's throwing a tantrum, you cannot logic with them. How many times have we seen a skinny white mom going, now, Caden, please stop. No, we're not going to. Sometimes you just need to emotionalize to affect some change. Sometimes you need to be a lightning rod a little bit.
What is the psychology? What do you think the psychology is behind the person who comes up to you at a Starbucks and says, can you believe that thing Trump did? Isn't he ridiculous or whatever?
Well, the top layer is self-importance. Underneath self-importance is an insecurity. So therefore it's fear. You know what I mean? I think that at the very base, the root of it is fear. I'm living in a place of fear. I don't feel important. I don't feel heard. I don't feel seen. And so I'm going to affect that one way or a motherfucking another. It used to be, I used to wear Jinkos, or I used to listen to a certain band, or I used to whatever. I would be a part of a group one way or another because I'm fucking desperate to touch people, especially now when we can't even touch each other, especially now when we can't even listen to each other or talk to each other. I need to feel it. I need to feel that spiritual hole one way or another. And God damn it, if it means if I need to be a beta bitch, like you were talking about, if I need to be a woke white person, if I need to stand there with a sign, the whole culture of what's that fucking word where it's a rally, a protest. Thank you. The whole protest culture is, I hope my sign gets viral. Let's be fucking real. All these motherfuckers I make my sign and then I hope that I get seen on Instagram when someone else shares it and it goes viral. It's importance, which comes from underneath that fear and insecurity.
Can I throw something out there though? Let me jump in, because do you think part of it is Carter's the one who introduced this term to me? We were talking about the manipulation techniques that sometimes, especially that narcissists use. And but you don't have to be a narcissist to use this one. It's the idea of forced teaming, where you kind of force someone to be on your team by using language like we and us, and also by who you exclude from the we and us. And so do you think part of it is it helps to spread their viewpoint through social pressure because they're automatically assuming you share it? They're like, or no?
No, I think they genuinely believe, or maybe you're not, maybe I'm misunderstanding the question, but I think they genuinely believe that I am that.
Oh, yeah.
I think they genuinely believe that everybody who voted for Trump, if it wasn't Russian bots first, everybody who voted for Trump is all in Arizona and east of Arizona, or, Florida and south of Washington, D.C. So they think these are people who they've never actually run across. I went to a conference in Oklahoma City. I was living in the Bay Area, 2016, I think. And I went to a conference in Oklahoma City and I saw gay kids running around. I saw black kids with white kids running around. I saw people with pink hair. It wasn't like everybody, it wasn't Deliverance, you know what I mean? And people in the Bay Area, Los Angeles and New York, a little easier in New York, and maybe I'll get into that, but especially in California, are so myopic because they just don't have other experience. They don't touch people who disagree. And so of course, there's an of courseness. There's a hipster, Phil's coffee in the Bay Area. When I first went to Phil's, it was different than other coffee shops, but they just assumed that you knew how to, of course, because all the cool people go here. You know what I mean? It wasn't, you have to walk in and go around and then order a different way than a different fucking Starbucks, but no one explains it because of course right?
Because you're supposed to know.
You're just supposed to know.
That's right? How you show you're cool, because you know how Phil's works.
Right. And so I like being a thorn in motherfucker sides. I enjoy it. It makes me happy. And not only are the majority of people reasonable, but I also think they're salvageable is such a, I don't know, it's kind of might be a dehumanizing word, but I don't care. I like when people are not coming and swinging on my comments, on my private messages, whatever. I like engaging them. I like talking to them. I had a guy reach out to me last night because I was ranting about Asian drivers on my Instagram last night because I was on Mark Hughes' show, pulling the trigger.
By
so
the
I was
way,
ranting about.
I saw Mark in chat. Hello, Mark. He's
Hi,
here.
Mark.
Oh, he's in chat. Hey, Mark.
By the way, I don't think Canadians are real people. Can we just, I think Scott Thompson and the kids in the hall, they're from fucking North Dakota, okay? There's like 5 people up in Canada and they don't matter. Let's be real, Mark.
Come on, they're good approximate simulations.
Yeah. Well, there's a, Norm Macdonald was on Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, and he was like, Jerry said a joke that Canada was like, if an alien was looking at America and trying to rebuild what he thought America looked like. Anyway, sorry.
How do we make humans? Yeah.
Right. What was I saying?
You were saying you were ranting
You were on
about
Mark Hughes'
Asian
show.
drivers.
Yeah, I was ranting about Asian drivers and how, from my experience, they are the fucking worst. But that doesn't mean I want to dehumanize them. I just want to tease them. Can I just fucking tease them? And I ranted about it on I put a clip on my Instagram. And people, one guy, reached out to me or put a comment. He said he's a Korean guy I've done some music with, and he's like, "Hey, I know you're coming from a good place, and we're good, but I think this is bad timing because there's been attacks on elderly Asian women." And number one, I didn't know about that. Okay, and so he asked respectfully if I would take it down. And listen, I love the guy. He's a nice person. He's coming from a good place. If I was heavy-handedly like, it's because you hate your country, you hate white people. No. He's coming from a good place. But I engaged in a conversation with him, and I said, okay, I didn't know that. Let me go look it up. But even if it is, because I came back and said this, even if this is happening, cunts are going to cunt. You know what I mean? Like, to be real, to be frank, if they're looking for an excuse to be a racist piece of shit, they're going to find it, and they're not going to look to some half Puerto Rican to justify racism. They're not, white supremacists don't follow me. You know what I mean? Because I've talked about, fucking dudes' mouths. You know what I mean? I've talked about the fact that I'm half Puerto Rican. I've talked about all this stuff. I don't fit with them anyway. They don't follow me. They're not looking to me as a moral guide if they can start abusing elderly women in the streets of Oakland. So I was like, listen, even though this is happening and I love them and I'm sending love to them and this is tragic, I'm not going to take it down. And he understands. I invited him on my show. Hopefully he shows up. But oh, by the way, just as a side note, have you seen the stories of what's going on in Oakland, Chinatown, over in the Bay, Carter?
No. And
yeah, there has been
I also don't know about these attacks that you're talking about.
Yeah, so there have been some, apparently, a rise in random attacks on elderly Asians in Oakland, Chinatown. Now, the media and the people, the district attorney or whatever in Oakland are saying it's because Trump spewed hate about calling it the China virus. When you look at the video,
but there's no Trump voters in all of Oakland, so like, how can that be possible?
And when you look at the video, here's a wonderful thing that a lot of these dum-dums are missing. When you look at I saw 2 videos of random attacks on Asians. They were both from black people. Surprise, surprise. Same thing that happened in Brooklyn. In Brooklyn, over the last 2 years, there was a huge spike in attacks on Jews in Brooklyn. Random attacks, throwing pipes through synagogue windows, hitting people in the back of the head who had payas. Random attacks. And it was fucking black people. Okay, it wasn't, I'm not saying, like you said, I'm not saying let's round up black people and stop them from whatever, but it does not fit the narrative. So to just say there's a symptom, let's not talk about the disease is not, and let's call it something else. Let's just say it's Trump. Do you think these little black teenagers running around Oakland, Chinatown are like looking to Trump for a moral guide? It's fucking dumb.
Yeah. Can we get back to something that you're because I didn't. I want to talk more about this when you were talking about fear being the motivating factor.
Yeah.
Because I think there's something. I suspect that there's something else, which is, and I don't know if you're religious or not. So, okay. I suspect that there's something to do with a lack of meaning, because when you don't have meaning in your life, I think what you do is you turn towards secondhand meaning. You look to your community, you look to the people around you for validation about whether you're moral, or like if you have your own moral code, right? And this is what I believe. To have integrity, I need to live as close to these values as I can, and then I'll feel good about my life and how I'm conducting it. But if you're not really sure what your moral code is, because you've maybe rejected religion, you didn't put the work in to figure out any other moral code at all. So you're just kind of through osmosis, figuring out what's right and wrong. You tend to look to your left and look to your right and look around and see. You replace moral judgment with, am I getting approval from other people around me? That substitutes for moral judgment. And so if you're constantly seeking approval, because it's never going to be enough, and part of you probably knows that you're not really sure if that approval is moral anyway. So you've kind of substituted popularity for morality. And I think walking up to someone, virtue signaling that you have a certain belief and that you expect them to have a belief as well, is a way to kind of signal, I'm part of this community that's popular here in the Bay Area, the moral community. My morals are the popular morals, and that makes them right. It's kind of a half-baked thought, but I'm hoping you can.
Yeah. I can definitely agree with that. I think the basis of it is still fear, but I think it also goes down to, again, and maybe this is slapdash, maybe myopic in my own way, but I think it also goes down to a lack of masculinity. For a long time, we would look culturally to men to be, you know what I mean? Like to be like, okay, or at least for what dudes do, we hunt, we gather, we protect, we beat them. If we're walking through the woods, one of us needs to carry the baby and one of us needs to have a spear and kill the wolf. You know what I mean? So we would have that culturally, but I think it's been sunk down from underneath. And I think why is a whole nother conversation, but I think it also comes from that lack of structure. And so the structure has to come from somewhere. And what better way than the government being our big daddy? You know what I mean?
Well, maybe what you're saying though is, I won't put words in your mouth. Maybe it's that masculinity is one of the protectors of that integrity and of those morals. Like men don't grow up being told get along with other people. Like masculinity has a lot more tolerance for disagreement than femininity, like broadly speaking, right? And so standing up for what you believe in and creating waves and having conflict is not viewed as problematic. That's viewed as actually expected. In fact, if you raise a young man, you expect him to create conflict in the world because you expect him to stand for something and stick by his own principles, and that will create conflict. Whereas femininity traditionally is more conflict avoidant.
You're going to say something, Keri? Yeah, I agree.
I was just going to ask him to define. I was going to ask you to define what you meant by that, Carter. That masculinity has more tolerance for disagreement than femininity. Do you mean that women are
just
more
look at the
agreeable?
Big Five personality scale. The agreeableness is lower for men than women.
Okay, right.
Right. I mean, that's what I mean. It's like there's a higher. I mean, think about even how the left characterizes competition, right? They characterize the competition of capitalism, and that's not even real. I mean, it's not even like bloody competition. It's just I sold more shoes than you did, so I make more money. Like that's kind of a lame ass competition from a biological perspective. But even that is characterized as somehow hypermasculine and competition is bad, and we're more about cooperation. And that's they've characterized forms of competition as masculine, i.e. toxically masculine, i.e. bad.
Okay. I think I follow. I just wanted you to define that a little bit.
No, yeah. and on a nature level, and a lot of these leftists are big old fucking atheists. I don't know why they have thrown out the idea of the animals that we are if they're fucking atheists, but whatever. On an animal level, on an evolutionary level, it makes sense for guys to be more autonomous. It makes sense to guys be more like, no, fuck you, I'm willing to fight. Not that women aren't protectors. I mean, lions are an example. Okay, great, whatever. But like most of the time in the animal world, the women have their job or whatever is to be that I don't know how to fucking put it. I guess to be slapdash with it, to be at the fucking cave, like setting up the house. You know what I mean? Like to protect the kids.
Nesting.
Nesting.
The nurturing.
Absolutely.
It's the nurturing.
We're running out into the fucking woods. You know what I mean? And look at war. You know what I mean? When you look at any, I know this is dumb.
I do nesting. I go to Goodwill. I'm always bringing things back for my nest that I don't
Absolutely.
need.
Right. Absolutely. And it's not like I don't buy things from time to time, but like my fucking house, I mean, like I'm 34 years old. I have nothing on my walls. It looks like a fucking hospital up in this motherfucker. Okay. There's nothing. There's no, I keep trying to like, oh, I got to buy some art. There's nothing. I'm Japanese up in this motherfucker.
I always think you're in a motel room when I see that image because there's like nothing. Like, there's like, no,
Peter,
but a motel room would have art.
I have too many Goodwill finds for my nest. I'll send you some. You can have some of my,
free shit.
You can also look at how people shop differently. Guys tend to, at least I've noticed it with my wife and frankly every girlfriend I've ever had, right? When we want to go shopping, my idea of shopping is I have a targeted list of some things I want. I know where they are. I get out of the car, I march into the store, I grab the things on my list, I immediately leave. And her idea of shopping is I'm going to go in the store and I'm going to walk around for a while and I'm going to browse and maybe something will strike my fancy and it's going to be a long browsing process and I'm not really sure what I'm going to end up with at the end. Maybe I'll end up with nothing at the end and that's okay. And those are just very different ways of looking at the world. And I'm not saying one's better than the other, but I'm saying one is traditionally more masculine than the other and both are needed for a functioning society.
Right, and it goes back to the earlier idea that you posited, Carter, is when it comes to throwing out of traditions and replacing it, right? Like we used to have the church as the moral guide and the structure. The church used to be the place, for it used to be the social circle. It used to be the everybody, it used to be the kind of the hub, the cultural hub, and so we've thrown that away. And I think it was either Ben Shapiro a couple years ago, I can't remember, but there's an idea on the non-liberal side that gets thrown around is, okay, the current day leftism is, okay, we're going to throw out this structure. We're going to throw out these traditions. We're going to throw out this cultural norm without any fucking understanding or even desire to understand of why the fuck we have it. You know what I'm saying? Just because something is a generalization, like you're saying, doesn't mean that. I mean, the majority of the women who I know who are like a little bit, just to get Patrice with it. Patricia is my favorite comic. I mention him in almost every fucking episode.
Can I go ahead? Something later.
Hang on to that. The way Patrice used to say it, like a good relationship with a woman is when she's a little bit unsure, when she's just a little bit insecure. now not insecure like, hey, bitch, you look fat, but insecure like, okay, I feel a little bit dangerous. This guy's a teensy bit scary, whether intellectually or physically or whatever. This guy's I feel kind of safe because I know that if someone knocks on my fucking door, he's going to be able to protect us, right? So a little bit scary equals more fulfillment belly-wise, fulfillment animal-wise. When this guy's a real-ass motherfucking man. He's a real motherfucker. I like this dude. As a dude, I don't look to my girl to be like, oh, she's a real woman. Like, okay, yeah, sometimes. But like, to be real with it, to be frank, to be a bit, slapdash, is I want a cut man. You know what I mean? Like, I'm actually in the ring knocking motherfuckers out, and when it's ding ding and I need somebody to cut the blood bubble above my eye, squirt Gatorade into my fucking mouth and tell me you're doing great, you're killing it, keep going, blah blah blah. That's what I need. I need a fucking Robin. And rather than just throwing that out, we have no fucking Batman now, okay, without Robin. Sorry, you can't. Now we need fucking Batman to be like, no, I'm a fucking Batman. I'm the one in the fucking ring. I know you felt like because you were Robin, I could smack you around and have no consequence. I could divorce you and not take care of you financially. I could, there was lots of rape. There was some crazy shit for a long time. Masculinity was a little fucking needed to be checked a little bit. But just because that tradition had some vagaries doesn't mean we throw it all out. And because you're not going to breed that out of us that quickly, number one. And number two, it feels good. Like you said, pay attention to your belly. You know what I mean? Like, it feels good to be honest with yourself. It fucking feels good to have structure. It fucking feels good to feel like, as far as my walk through, like you were talking about, Carter, my walk through this show, not only was it coming out as non-liberal, but it also was like, I know who I am. Like, it has served me spiritually. the show that I am on. You know, it has served me mentally, emotionally to be like, this is my voice. I'm giving myself a voice. It feels good to not be swaying in the wind depending on what people think about me.
I was going to say, not only do we not have a Batman now, we have Batwoman. And I don't know if you've seen that show, but everything that I've heard about it, it's a complete destruction of the character. And it's that sort of sexism directed towards men in the show, where even in the trailer for the first season, she said something like she found the bat suit or something, and they said, oh, it's perfection. She said it will be once a woman wears it.
Wait, can I just comment on that for a second? Because I want to point something out. I want to point something out. All these shows with women like that, who like the suit makes them her Batwoman and gives her all this power and blah blah blah. And that the suit, like, she manifests her toughness through all this. It's all just a metaphor for actual men. The feminists, the loud, angry feminists that act like they're so tough and they want to do X, Y, and Z, and they want the state to do A, B, and C. The state is men with guns. Everything they want is all of their desires, everything that they claim is empowering is, I'm going to get a bunch of men with guns to force you. That's all it is. They're really just Karens. All of them, all they are is little busybody Karens who are like, I'm going to call the boys in with guns. That'll make you do it. That's what a law is. A law is boys with guns. That's all it is. So there's nothing empowering about saying, I'm going to have guys with guns come force you. That's not empowering for a female, but that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right. It's the same thing with that idea of like Hillary Clinton, Camille. I love Camille Paglia to death. And she said Hillary Clinton is not a feminist icon. She got her job because she was married to a dude. Okay. She got her job. She got her status because she was married to a dude. And she may have done the climbing of the ranks once she was already established because she was married to a dude. She got her power because of a man. That's not a feminist icon.
I thought she got her power because of the pantsuit.
No,
but I
once
just
a woman's in it.
Once a woman's in it, I just wanted to read. These are not super chats, but there's a lot of people in the chat tonight. And Daniel Keene says, Carter, that isn't shopping. That is retrieving your needs.
That's what shopping is, Daniel Keene.
And Therese Lupo says, Peter, my daughter is an artist. You need some of her work on your walls. So you should connect with Therese.
Therese, hit me up. Peter Feliciano. I get paid in titty pictures.
Oh, no.
Hey, listen, you wanted, I'm here. I have to be myself. I have to.
No, I would never censor you. I'm only blushing because, I mean, I used to work with very raunchy, I worked with Margaret Cho and everything, but only because my aunt just texted me and I was imagining my aunt watching the show because I was like, I can't talk right now because I'm on a show. Don't watch it.
I love you too, baby. You're welcome. The water is warm. The water is warm.
Well, wait. Since you talked about sex and now you've mentioned titty pictures, I'm gonna bring another thing up, and I'm gonna say something that's gonna piss people off. I'm speaking in generalizations. Women want to be objectified often in the bedroom. Like the whole idea that you shouldn't objectify women is like, obviously you shouldn't treat them as objects in the workplace or elsewhere. Like, yes, they deserve respect just like any, quote, gender. But sexually, that's exactly what they want. They want to be treated like, by and large, not all women, but the idea that objectification is some great sin. And I think what we've done is we've taken all things masculine. And like you were saying, masculinity, you were describing it as it has gone out, it was out of control. You could, beat people up or whatever. Look, both masculinity and femininity need to be constrained by morals. Both of them. Masculinity is not more evil than femininity. It's it can do different evil things. Mm-hmm. They're not like neither masculinity nor femininity is inherently moral or immoral. It's a way of being. And those ways of being need to be constrained morally. And we've been on this, we went on this crusade as a culture to constrain masculinity morally and then overdid it and then just elevated femininity into this point of like, there's no constraints necessary on femininity. There's no conception that femininity could ever be immoral. You want to see the world fall apart,
right?
Put a woman in charge, as that song would say.
Right. I personally know women who have molested people.
Of course.
Wow.
Okay. I personally know them. They've changed their life. But I turned 19 years sober a couple of days ago. And so I'm a part of a spiritual group
congratulations.
that thank you, that kind of, we talk about some of the deeper, nastier shit. I've done volunteer work at prisons for years. So I know people who are friends of mine who have literally done the worst things you can possibly fucking do. Now they've changed their life. They've gotten sober. They've some of them have gotten out and started amazing lives. And it's fucking, I'm so goddamn happy for them. But the idea that because you have a puss, that means you're a good person. That comes from, again, the fear that myopicity comes from fear. And so I think, again, it goes back to that idea of like, let's attack on the emotional, let's attack on the psychological. That's the way to do it. That meme to that Batman thing you were talking about, Keri, that meme a few years ago, it's, one of those, you would see it now from an aunt, like a 43-year-old, 45-year-old aunt who listens to 80s music still will post this like corny meme. But you see a classroom, and there's like 7 little girls, and 6 of them are in pink dresses, and one of them is dressed like Batman. And the meme says, in a world full of princesses, dare to be a Batman. Let me pause you. Let me pause that douchebag who wrote that. What if you're happy to be a fucking princess? Are you allowed to be happy with like your belly? Are you allowed to be, you know what I mean? What's that other one? Like, no guy, as far as dudes, I used to talk about this. In the beginning of Facebook, they would have those groups or pages, and one of them said, these aren't what was it? These aren't stretch marks. I'm a tiger who's earned her stripes. Can you imagine if a dude started a page that said, it's not the size of the ship, it's the motion of the ocean? Stop it. You know what I mean? Like, stop it. It's douchebaggery. And the fact that we're not all on the same page, because we know it in our belly, right?
Yeah.
And so it's completely putting a blind eye to the fact that women are, on the whole, like you said, generalization, but generalization, just because it's a generalization doesn't mean we need to throw out. Anyway,
we can stop making the caveats. Everything we're talking about with masculinity and femininity is generalization.
It makes me think of I have friends who have expressed disappointment online, and I'm sure you've seen this in the social justice world, especially expressed disappointment that their toddler daughters are playing with dolls and princess toys. And I've even seen them say, like, I've tried everything, I'm buying her trucks, I'm doing that. And it's like, why are you trying to force this on her?
Right.
If that's what she likes to play with is dolls and the princess. And it's like, you're trying to.
I have a daughter, Keri, and like when she was born, I was less cognizant of this stuff. And I was more like, well, I'm going to give her access to the trucks, and I gave her all the stuff, including and I actually avoided Disney princess stuff because I was worried about it. I thought it was problematic. She gravitated like, boom, Frozen. All right, like that's where we're going. We're going to princesses, like. And
these fucking atheists, if you're only living for 80 years and there's no afterlife and there's no offense, Carter, I know you're an atheist, but like if these leftist atheists, if these motherfuckers really believe that there is essentially, we are here on a borrowed time where why wouldn't you want to be fucking satisfied for your entire time that you're here? Why wouldn't you want to just be naturally okay instead of a bunch of fucking unfuckable cunts told me that I'm not supposed to be happy dressing like a princess? Fuck you. Wear princess shit if you want to be a princess. And you know what? Same thing goes for dudes. My life was fucking saved by Patrice O'Neill. Not literally, but like by the movement of like, what is my belly telling me to tell this girl right now? What is my belly in this relationship? I was in a relationship back in 08, I want to say, and maybe 06. And I was I was 21, she was 34, and she had an inheritance, and I'm a lazy 20-year-old, 21-year-old. I don't want to fucking work anyway. And she was like, I hate it when you leave. I was living with her. I hate it when you leave. So just stay home and I'll pay for everything. And I was like, okay, because I didn't know no better, right? And for some reason, we hated each other. For some reason, if we went more than 2 days without a fight, it was a fucking miracle if we went more than 2 days without a fight.
Because she didn't respect you.
Right. Surprise, surprise. And
You
actually,
know what's funny?
Yeah, go ahead.
I literally had this conversation with my wife this morning when she jokingly said, maybe you should just like stop doing everything and stay home with me. And I was like, no.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, that's a bad idea. I'm like, yeah, of course it's a bad idea. Like, that's
Right.
Any healthy couple knows that's a horrible idea. You have to be yourself, and that's what they fell in love with. They didn't fall in love with you on the couch being attentive to their needs. They fell in love with you out in the world being yourself.
Right. And so why can't we just be all right with that? It's not a lesser or better. It's just we all have different roles. It's the fucking super friends again and again. If you're a solid woman, and you're, especially, I've noticed women who have had babies, or especially had male babies, are a lot less social justice warrior. They're a lot more understanding. They're a lot more understanding of the animal that men are and the animal that women are. They're a lot more understanding of context. They're a lot more understanding of nuance. They're a lot more funny. Okay. And so the reality goes back to, okay, if I'm only living here for a little bit, why can't I just be happy? Fuck everybody. Fuck everybody. And that's essentially what my show is about. You know what I mean? Is fuck everybody.
So I want to ask you a question.
Just wait. First, let me interrupt.
Okay.
Zach Adamson just gave a super chat. Thank you, Zach. And he says, I like this guy. And the other thing,
best. I'm the
you are,
fucking
and
best.
I would also just like to make an unsafe space announcement for Marie Buskey, who might be watching this later. You do not have to contribute to the Cuss Swear Jar Fund on this episode because you would be broke. We're letting you off the hook.
Hey, I say this one word that I normally say on my show. I would never do that on other people's show. I would leave it. But,
Actually, Marie, if you're down, we can have Beverly count up the number of F-bombs that were dropped.
that would be great.
I'll send you an invoice.
Yes. At the very least, can you just give me a plaque that says Pete Feliciano said?
I can tell you, you've already won the award. There's no competitor.
Feels good. Feels so good in my belly. Yeah.
I just want to ask a question from the audience because I think it's an interesting question. Philip says, he's talking to someone else, but he says, there's no accepted female uniform in the workplace. Men wear a suit. Okay. What should women wear to be professional? This is a serious question. I actually think that's an interesting question because I look at one of the things that bothers me about how women are treated in the workplace, or at least how they tell each other to behave in the workplace, is that they have this idea that they have to look like Hillary Clinton's a guy. Like she just looks like she wears clothes like a guy. She looks like a guy, an ugly guy, but whatever. They try and be masculine in order to be in the workplace. And while I obviously, for those of you who are only now tuning in and don't know what our beliefs are, obviously I think women have every right and should be in the workplace if they want to be, and if that's what they want to do, that's great. But it does seem like there's not room for women to be feminine. They don't feel like there's room for women to be feminine and in the workplace. It seems like if they choose to be in the workplace, a lot of times they end up giving up part of their femininity and trying to be more masculine.
No, that's not true at all. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'll let Peter answer.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead, Keri.
I don't think that's true at all. I think it's the opposite. I think women in the workplace, if anything, I don't think they're afraid to be feminine. I think they.
Where are you working? I want to take.
Well, no. I think maybe in the way they act, maybe in the way they behave, they take on more aggressive personalities, and they think that being assertive means being a jerk. But in terms of how they dress and stuff, this goes back to, actually, let me bring this in now since you mentioned it, Peter. This goes back to a Patrice O'Neill joke where he talks about how women dress in the workplace and they wear high heels and makeup, and he's like, women are like salmon and I'm like a bear, and women are like salmon and honey, right? And he's all like,
having women and men work together is like having a bear work with a salmon dipped in honey.
Yes, that's what he said. And so I know Jordan Peterson kind of got in trouble for posing this question. He wasn't saying women shouldn't be able to dress however they want. He was just posing a question that, like, why do women wear makeup? How did this evolve culturally? Well, rouge and lipstick are meant to simulate what you look like when you're aroused. You know, it's meant to highlight the look of arousal, and you know, you're wearing high heels because it sticks your booty out a little bit, and that's
booty. Thank you for protecting us from your language. It was a booty.
your bum. And and so I think, I don't know, I didn't see women in the workplace dressing very, but also I was working in entertainment. So women felt maybe.
Oh, you were in LA. Women are beautiful.
I was in LA, and women are beautiful, and they dress beautiful, and they show off their femininity, and even in the business side of entertainment, they and even when they're wearing suits, they're low cut tops and stuff. Like, women were not afraid to flaunt what they had, and
Right.
This is interesting to me because look what just happened in the Army. Did you see this? Like 2 weeks ago, the Army just said, okay, to help end depression or whatever of women, we're going to allow women now. We're going to change our dress code for women. Women can now wear makeup and loose hair and ponytails and all these feminine things. Well,
and loose hair.
yeah, like have their hair down without having to tie it back.
I mean, isn't there a reason for not having dangling hair around machinery?
You would think, yes, but
it adds to this thing on my, as far as people who are, is cancel culture an example of toxic femininity? Abso-fucking-lutely. Thank you, Azor, whoever that is. But I think it goes to this idea that I think can be solved with emotional maturity, self-awareness. If you ask girls, would you become a man? The one thing that would stop them is the power that they have. Do you realize, ladies and gentlemen, as talented and wonderful and handsome as I am, if I had a vagina, I would have been famous 10 fucking years ago. Okay? Let's be fucking real. The idea that I mean, not just on a comedy angle, on a musician angle, on lots of
that's not what Taylor Swift says. You know, she has a video saying if she were a man, it would be so much easier for her.
Right, as she's literally drowning in money. That dumb motherfucker. Listen, do you know how many fucking open mics I've gone to in my life, okay, where a dumb motherfucker in a hat gets up with a ukulele and sings about a girl, and people are like, okay, yeah, it's great. They might even buy a fucking CD. But if a girl got up and went, bling, and people want to fuck her, even if she's a goddamn, even if the person who wants, they can be a woman, so not even wanting to fuck them. And they're still like, wow, she touched the guitar. She writes her own songs. First things first, no, the fuck she don't. Just because her name, look on Wikipedia, look on Lizzo as an example. Lizzo is a perfect example. Oh, she's a feminist
Billie
icon.
Eilish. I learned about this because of my daughter. She doesn't write her own shit either.
No. Lizzo is a perfect
Her brother
too.
writes her shit.
Yes, she does. And that song, I just took a DNA test, turns out, right? There are 4 writers on that song, and 3 of them are dudes. That's not a fucking feminist icon, okay? It's just goddamn not. It did not come from her fucking mind. Some of it did. But 4 writers? 4. And 3 of them are dudes? Not a feminist icon. But that's what I'm saying. They want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to hang on to the sexual power that they have and yet free the nipple. Can't fucking happen. Cannot fucking happen. They want to. Do you understand, girls? If you were a little more emotionally mature, you would realize that you can literally put, I wouldn't say it's comparing, but kind of. Let's just put it out there. You could put a lot of the current day, at the very least, for the last 30 years, 40 years, of the bad shit that happens to girls in this hand. And on the other side of the scale, put you can fuck literally anytime you want. It would even out. Okay? The reality is no woman.
I think most guys would choose the bad shit if they got the other. Yeah.
Yes. No woman has, I mean, getting the right dick, that's one thing. But getting they can literally have sexual intercourse anytime they want. And often you get emotional fill up, a power fill up when you can string a dude along, right? It happens. So the power that you have is not something that they're even interested in listening to our experience. You know what I mean? If it was flipped, they would turn into incels real fucking quick.
I think some of them are incels.
I'm thinking about this. I'm pondering it. It does make me think of the statistic about dating sites where they ask men and women to rate their own attractiveness and then the attractiveness of most of the dating pool, the opposite sex. And they found that women rate themselves really high on average compared to men. and that women also rate all the men on the sites very low compared to the men who rate the women high. Now, is it really that the women are so much more attractive, that they're all 10s, so much more attractive than the men? Or is it that in this current culture we have, maybe it has something to do with that power that you're talking about, that sense of, I don't know what to call that kind of power, but
whenever you take a group and you tell them, and you tell everyone else, you can't say anything bad about this group. This group is never evil. Everything this group has done is great. And we should all be more like this group. That group is going to go apeshit crazy and destroy everything. Doesn't matter what that group is.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And the reality is that not only is it corrupting, but it's also really sad. Like I was talking about it on the last show with fucking Keri. I have talked to many women over the course of my life. One in particular comes to mind who had married a guy when she was 20, 19, 20, was with him for like 15, 20 years. And over the last 10 of it was super unattracted to the guy. And the guy was a yes dear. Okay. And the yes dear, by the way, and girls don't know this, and guys don't know it either, unless you're seeking to be emotionally fucking mature. Sorry to get Lewis Black there for a second. Unless you're seeking to be emotionally mature, is that yes dear happens from the guy. Like you were talking about, it's not real power that females have. Okay. If my bicep is bigger than your face, who's got the actual power? And I'm not saying that means we need to flex that power, but it's like sharks swimming in the water, to bring Patricia into it. Current day feminism is sharks in the water, tuna in the water. And tuna are like, we run the ocean, y'all. No, I took out my teeth. I'm a fucking shark who took out my teeth. You don't actually have power unless I give it to you. I don't turn into a yes dear. And then, like I said, the reason why I brought that up is because she was unhappy, unsexually satisfied. And so many women are not getting the fucking structure, the strength, the safe feeling that they need unless they come across a real ass motherfucking man. Okay. And so it's angering to me because guys are the ones who are doing it. Guys are the ones who are pulling out their teeth, and I fucking refuse. You know what I mean? Like, and that's going to be my main, I think, or at least for now, is my main push is on the psychology angle of it, because men need to act like men. You know what I mean?
So now you're making me think of, well, let me just read this real quick. Joshua gave a super chat and said, just look at OnlyFans. You think if they were men, they would have all that money.
That's one of the benefits, sure. Yeah.
So you're making me think now of Jordan Peterson, and I heard him talking once about how women, at the end of the day, what they're attracted to is women want a beast that they can civilize. And then he said, for example, he said, like, they want Beauty and the Beast, right? They want a man who is dangerous but knows how to control it. And who chooses to control it for them. And he said, at the time, what was that book that all the women were reading, and it got made into a movie, and it was about like
50 Shades of Grey.
Yes, 50 Shades of Grey was huge. It's like the best-selling book, and he said, that's 50 Shades of Grey is basically a porny version of Beauty and the Beast,
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what. At the end of the day, they want a beast that they can civilize. They want a shark, but not a toothless shark. Just a shark that is choosing to be civil.
Won't bite them
have their cake,
too hard.
Eat it too. Here's where I will extrapolate on that idea. Absolutely true. But girls, in order to make sure that they're safe, will subconsciously, or make sure that they have a place with Beast, will subconsciously try to make him civilize himself for them. And that's what's fucked up. You guys get fucked up on the back end because you can't make us civilize ourselves. I've had many conversations with dirty little sub girls, okay? And the majority of the women I've talked to are sorry, or at least when they come across me. I have a Yelp, girls. So you cannot, if you're in if you are a girl who wants to be, let's not say choked, let's say have their hair pulled. You can't, once you ask the guy to pull your hair, the game's already done. The game's already done. If you ask the guy, but that's essentially what that is I want a beast who will be civilized for me. Well, guess what? That's my fucking choice. Yes, does that mean you might have annoying conversations from time to time, that you might get frustrated, that I might leave you? Yeah, it does. But the benefits that you get from knowing that you're not with a guy who you can go ding, 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 and have, oh, what do you need, dear? The benefits of that are much more mentally, emotionally, spiritually rewarding. So you have to kind of make a decision. Essentially, each individual person, both man and woman or whoever, each individual person needs to make that decision for themselves. Do I want to be happy, or do I want to be false safe? Not really safe, but false safe.
Right. Well, I think it's that women, maybe on average, women want a beast who chooses to civilize himself. But what women are doing is what it sounds like what you're saying is that what women are doing is they're trying to force that. They're not letting him choose that. They're trying to turn a shark into a tuna.
Right. Or at least, and then they wonder why they're not satisfied. Yeah. Why it doesn't hit that thing. And I bring it nice and vulgar. Again, everybody cover your ears. But there's a difference, ladies and gentlemen, between there's a difference, and girls know this. Guys don't really know this, especially in our 20s. We're just like, oh, she let me have sex with her. Or, I came. Of course we came. We know that. But girls are sexually different from us. And girls know the difference between I achieved orgasm and I just got properly fucked. There's a goddamn difference between I got there or I got over the hump, like, and holy shit, some guy just had sex with me so good I want to cook for him, like my belly. You know what I mean? Like he makes me feel like a girl. And god damn it, you want to fucking feel like a girl. Yeah. Sorry.
I'm going to have to put an explicit warning on this one.
I'm just going to start translating Peter into the PG-friendly version. A woman wants a guy that makes her feel like twiddly-dee, like I'm such a female.
Twiddly-dee?
Yeah.
Man, I feel like a woman. Right? Well, the thing is that you can't make us do it. Now, I apologize, but at this, for guys, how maybe crazy or off the chain or uncheckable or unchecked masculinity was for a long time. But the reality is if we keep going, I'm sorry, it's never fulfilled. It's a insatiable appetite for I'm sorry,
Yeah, well, I think that the essence of maturing as a man is learning to do what Keri was just talking about, which is understand and appreciate, like, be dangerous, learn to be dangerous, and learn to rein it in and control it and keep it under control. Because frankly, and this is another generalization, masculine, feminine generalization, but another example of why we need masculinity to protect society. It's the masculine trait to look out for threats, to be aware of external threats and internal threats, and to be vigilant about them. That's, does it lead to paranoia? Sometimes, right? Sometimes it leads to paranoia. So sure. Yeah, it's good to have a balance there. But if you get rid of it completely, then you've got no one guarding the door. You got no one guarding the gates. And intellectually, that's what's already happened.
Right.
Okay,
go ahead, Keri.
Two quick things from chat. Daniel says, I always thought that women just wanted a man who can be dangerous but behaves around her by choice. Yes, that's kind of what I heard. At least that's what I interpreted Jordan Peterson as saying, like a sheathed sword, he compared it to. And then the other one, there was a question here. Okay, this is from Jord. Jord says, we can't be in the same room or even 5 feet away, apparently, at this point. Do you have any dating advice for the digital dystopia?
No. So it depends on where you are. I think personally, it's been a little slim pickings in New York and liberal areas when it comes to girls who aren't like you can't be a white girl in 2021 and not say I'm immunocompromised. Boring.
I have a gluten allergy.
Exactly. And I'm not saying that that's not a real thing, but, and I was talking about it on the show with Katie, the reality is this. the barriers that are set up, and mostly in my personal opinion, the liberal barriers of I need to be really careful about COVID. Essentially, it's just I want to keep up with the Joneses, and I have to mentally keep up with the Joneses. I have to be just as woke as the most woke person in the room, right? So of course I'm going to wear 3 masks because Fauci, blah 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 blah. But
especially
the animal always
especially
wins.
at orgies, they've been saying you have to wear your mask at orgies. I don't know if you heard that.
You can cut a hole in it, whatever.
Yeah.
You don't kiss a girl at an orgy anyway. Anyway, I'm not gonna. Anyway, so yes, all of those barriers or emotional virtue signaling does exist, but you can override that in a way. Not override, but help them realize that that's horseshit when they're horny enough, and when, like, for the right person. The idea, I think, is why they're allowed, or why they're currently kind of sitting in their little eggshell waiting. Number one, sure, vibrators, and they have, they feel like, well, what's more important is that I don't die because Fauci said I'm going to die if I leave my house. But it's the same kind of thing, to bring it to the analogy of the convincing of themselves in their head, as far as feminism goes, is Baby It's Cold Outside. With Baby It's Cold Outside, what it was is not really a rapey song. It's a girl telling herself, no, Susan, you said you wouldn't have sex on the first date. You're trying to be good. And the body is moving her forward towards having sex regardless of what she's telling herself in her head.
It's a song about plausible deniability.
Yes. Yeah.
And
that same thing, I think, is happening when it comes to that, because I have all these beliefs, but all of a sudden in the cover of night, I can sneak out and get some dick because this guy's really worth it, or because I really just need it, or because I whatever. I don't know if I have any advice for the motherfucker who asked that. I
have some advice.
To make themselves as manly as they can.
I have some advice, and now this may not be popular advice, but if you're a believer, go to church, because churches are open, at least in some states, at least in my state. And in my state, you also find a church that's not woke. My church doesn't require masks. And now I'm not talking about going there to find a sex partner. I'm talking about dating. But Peter doesn't like my advice.
You're right. But all guys, even if we are, like, even currently now, I'm super down to have a relationship. For the first time in a long time, I realized, I was doing some writing a couple months ago, and I was like, I think I'm down to have a relationship. Shit, oh my God, it was very surprising to me. But the way in, sorry to be, it's also crass, but the way in towards that is, well, yeah, I'm not going to wait to get married to have sex with somebody. I have to find out if we're compatible physically, or compatible energy wise, or compatible. Do I like the way you smell? You know what I mean? You have to kind of, I think personally, sorry to not be all Christian or whatever, I feel like you have to know that stuff, right? But I understand that is a good point.
Well, that doesn't have to be first date material though, to be the mediator between the two of you. Like, you can date someone for a little bit, have sex, and get married. You don't have to have sex, then date, then get married.
Yeah. I'll just share from my
possible.
experience. It is possible. But I will also say, just in case there are women out there who are like, well, if I give it up too early, then he's not going to like me. That's not a thing for real dudes. I'm sorry. It's just not. I have the majority of the relationships I've been in has been with a girl who gave it up too early because, okay, we both now can breathe, or at least I can breathe. I can be myself because I'm not trying to tap dance fast enough to be, attractive enough to get in your pants, because that's already now off the table. Okay, now let me assess whether or not I like her. Now, I believe personally that leaves dudes in high school, if they're mature, or in at least mid-20s. You don't go like, oh, she gave it up quick, I'm not going to call her back. Like, I have no problem, calling a girl back even though she had sex with me, early,
Yeah, I'm not an expert in this area, but I will push back a little bit and just say I think there are studies that correlate number of sexual partners prior to marriage with probability of divorce, and the correlation's non-trivial.
Touche.
Now, I'm saying that as someone who was polyamorous for a long time in my life, and like totally not the good Christian.
Right.
So I get it, but yeah, I think there's probably nuance there, and you may not be a representative sample.
No, and maybe we're both saying the same thing, because I'm not talking from a standpoint of the physical act. I'm talking about from an energy mostly. You know what I mean? I'm talking about from somebody like I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I think about this a lot, and I talk about this a lot, and I'm very like spiritually, mentally, I have to be emotionally mature in order to live. And so I've done a lot of work around myself, and I meditate a lot, and I explore myself and my insecurities and my fears and my whatever. So I might not be a great example of the general populace anyway, of dudes, but maybe the energy, we're kind of saying the same thing. I'm not saying the act is all that there is, but I'm saying it's not a make or break for me, whether or not, like, do you understand what I'm saying? Where it doesn't negate the rest of, it doesn't negate a genuine connection with people.
Sure. And I'm old and married at this point, so I don't know what the hell the young kids are doing. Maybe
glory
I'll
holes.
concede that I might be clueless on it. That's fine.
Right.
We have some questions from the community. Can I ask a couple of community questions here? Someone asks for your thoughts on the potential recall of Governor Newsom and the super wokeification of California, and whether you think California can ever be saved from its insanity. I guess you don't care because you left, but I'll ask it anyway.
Yeah, I think it is, because I think the majority of people, when I've been dishonest with myself and what I want, it only lasts a certain amount of time. It has to give up some point. And I think when people are tap dancing long enough because they have to be just as woke as the next person and keep up with the Joneses, that's only sustainable for a certain amount of time. I think that the cognitive dissonance comes in, it's already snuck in a little bit. It's something trivial, but when Joe Rogan and Christina Pazitsky and Tom Segura and all these people are leaving California, it does start to spark a little bit of, why is this happening? Because I don't think Joe Rogan is an evil conservative, or the majority of people don't.
Elon Musk, right?
Elon Musk, right? So there's something there. Now, unfortunately, they'll still bring their liberal voting because they're dumb. But I think the cognitive dissonance has already started. And I personally, the way I've come at it, even though Trump lost the election, I feel like culturally the war is already won, because there's just too many fucking more black people voted for Trump in 2020 than did in 2016. More gay people voted for Trump in 2020 than did in 2016. So already the cultural wave is already too late. You can't turn that momentum back. So I hope that that it will change.
That's interesting. That's I was going to next ask you about America generally, but I guess you kind of answered that. I think that's where I think we disagree on that, but I don't try and be a pessimist about it. But
No.
Like, I think ultimately there is the long term, this stuff can't survive. Like, absolutely. I agree. Long term, it can't go on forever. But the question is really, how much damage can it do in the meantime? And can the institutions that are in place now survive during that time? Because, I can in all honesty say communism self-implodes and it doesn't work in the long run. That is 100% true. But it can kill 100 million people, right, on the way to destruction. So,
right. At least if we can have, hopefully we can change that. But if we could have no other satisfaction, at least as the guillotine, in between when they pull the guillotine rope and it's sliding down their neck, at least then the regret will come in. And at least if we can just have that regret, I'm kind of happy. If I could see it in their eyes, that would be even more satisfying.
Oh, they're coming for me. I meant to push back on this. Sorry.
Right. But I already canceled somebody else. Aren't I woke enough? Oh, suddenly it's trampling me. So. Yeah.
Who was that guy in the French Revolution?
Robespierre.
Yes, Robespierre, who pushed a lot of the executions and then ended up. Tables turned. And
it does happen.
What's that? Speaking of French history, what's that little group in France, the communists? Oh, someone mentioned it, and I looked it up and watched a couple of videos about it. It was the something. God damn it! It was in France, and it was a little bit of communism, and they tried to make a little commune, and it only lasted like a couple of months, and then imploded in and of itself. I want to say it was the 1700s, right around the revolution, somewhere around there.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Are you?
I actually don't know French history. But
You
one of the
fucking
people did ask
liar.
a question
How dare
about.
you.
Yeah, someone did ask though, and I don't even know where this is coming from because I don't even know anything about French current politics.
Right.
Someone says,
Yes,
"Do we?"
it's the Jacobins. That's what I thought.
Thank
Are
you.
talking- Yeah.
Oh, the
Yes,
Jacobins.
okay.
I was like, is that
Oh.
what you're talking about?
Yes.
But
Keri knows her French history. She
Well-
watches those French documentaries.
I've seen one. I need to watch more.
So anyway, they asked, do we free-loving Americans come to the aid of the French in their war against American wokeism? I didn't know they were at war with American wokeism, and I thought war for the French basically meant, what was the Norman Schwarzkopf quote? Going to war without the French is like going hunting without your accordion. So I'm not sure.
Or I like.
What are they doing? Are the French doing something against wokeism and I'm not paying attention?
I didn't hear about it. I think John Cleese in his book, his autobiography, mentioned somebody made this joke that why did the French have so many civil wars so they can win one every once in a while? Like,
Funny.
I mean, I'm down to join anybody. Like, you know, even if we disagree on some things, you know, just to be like, no, stop, just humanize each other. There's a lot of motherfuckers I follow who I do not agree with, and I don't care. Whatever, as long as we can sit and talk, you know, shit.
So, by my count on this program, you've insulted the Canadians, the French, Asian drivers.
But Canadians don't count.
No,
women.
they don't. They're not real people. Women, absolutely. Black people. I did mention the truth
black
about the crime
people.
statistics. Bald people.
And the list goes on.
But I think that's been my thing since long before I started the show. My favorite artist, my favorite composer of all time is Frank Zappa. And the thing about Frank Zappa is he sprayed it everywhere. It wasn't just message above art. It was art above message. When you put, perfect example, Trevor Noah puts message above comedy. He just, Jon Stewart, as much as he said a lot of shit that I disagree with, put comedy above message. That's why we don't really give a sweet hot fuck about any of the movies coming out of Hollywood right now, except for the Superman shit. You know what I mean? Except for the Hollywood or the whatever comic book. Why did I mention that? What were you just talking about? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just joking about all the groups you've insulted. You said Frank Zappa's your favorite.
Oh, Frank Zappa. Yeah, because he sprayed it everywhere. He made fun of hippies. He made fun of God. He made fun of this. He made fun of same thing with South Park. You know, they make fun of everybody. Everybody gets a bullet. Genuine fucking equality. Those are the people I've always looked up to, and I've always tried to, you know, that really struck a chord with me. So that's what I try to do.
Can I ask you a question about this current? Let's do a current topic. I just watched this rapper Tom McDonald that everybody's been telling me to watch for a week, and I finally watched him. Are you familiar with him? Okay, then we'll save this for some other time. Never mind.
Keri's been texting me. You've got to go watch this video. Watch that. I haven't watched it either. But
I haven't been this obsessed since Kanye West put out his Jesus is King album. I'm really obsessed with this guy's music. He's incredibly unwoke, and he's doing very well, which is surprising. He has no label. He's just being himself, and he's an equal opportunity offender, much like you're saying somebody sprays it everywhere. So go watch Tom McDonald. We'll talk again.
Okay. I will say I white rappers sometimes bore me to shit. I mean, I know that I believe that everybody's got, you know, there's a wrench for every nut, but even Eminem, who I think is the best lyricist, probably the best lyricist of all time, not my favorite rapper by far, MF Doom, rest in peace, is the best. But even Eminem, like I could do like one song and then I'm like, okay, all right, I get it.
What did you think of MC Solar, French rapper from the 90s? Remember him?
No.
Okay.
You say, is that similar to Informa? You talking about Snow right now, goddammit?
I don't know that one. I don't know that reference, but
he was a fucking Canadian, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
If he existed at all.
I just don't like rap generally. So
you know, like the hip and the hop?
Nothing. No, not at all. The last rapper I liked was probably MC Hammer or Young MC or someone. Like in the 80s.
That's
when I was a kid. Like,
all right.
You know,
right.
That's okay. And MC Solar.
That doesn't do it for me. So
I
sorry.
Have to use the restroom really bad.
I was going to say.
That's fine.
Yeah. Well,
someone's got to say it.
I was actually thinking, like,
you can't
if
be
I could,
expected to like rap and hip hop. Not everyone
if I
likes
could
rap and hip hop,
sneak
and I
this
don't.
under
There
the
we go.
counter and like very, easily piss into it, that would be great. But I can't do that. I don't think. I don't.
Oh, so you're being serious?
Someone's-
Well, we can
Stop
wrap
mocking
it
me
up.
for MC Hammer, guys.
Oh,
No, I
come
do.
on.
I am
Come
about
on.
to explode.
Yeah.
yes.
Well, Peter, I
It's
just
time
wanted
to let you go anyway.
Yeah. Thank you very much for coming on our show.
Thank you for having me. You guys are fucking amazing. I love you guys.
Broken several
fun.
records, Unsafe Space trophies that you've won tonight. First time for many
Absolutely.
things.
Thank
And
you. I didn't
Everybody-
say
They were the
the
most
N-word,
sexual
though.
references.
Hey, I'm happy about my.
Yeah.
I
and
do
if-
on my show,
Lots of
just
stuff.
to let you guys know. It's very
yeah,
fun.
so
Very
if people want to check you out, because I think there are a lot of people watching you for the first time tonight. If you
Mm-hmm.
want to check out Peter, you can find him online at, and we'll put it in the
You-
description too.
youtube.com/rule62pete. You can also find me peterfeliciano.com, I guess, but Instagram at Peter_Feliciano, Facebook, Twitter, I think is rule62peter. But I think YouTube is the best place. YouTube and Instagram. Yeah. Conservatish podcast every week. I put out the last episode is Katie Hopkins. I also put out an album about 1.5 years ago, self-titled. Peter Feliciano has a picture of me biting my own tongue with blood coming out of my mouth. Surprise, surprise. And my music is kind of Jack Black meets Jeff Buckley. So yeah, it's fun.
Cool.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you guys so
really
much. I
appreciate the
really had a
conversation.
blast. Absolutely. Thank you for having me
ditto.
on. And I'm gonna go piss my pants.
Goodbye,
Actually, you
Peter.
enjoy that. That is probably a kink. You can go enjoy that with some of your friends. All right.
All right. I will. Thank you guys so much.
Take care.
All
All
right,
right.
have a
Bye.
good one. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time. One from Mike Cernovich to Megan Murphy. So go check it out. If you'd like to see more, please consider supporting the show by visiting unsafespace.com/donate. You can find us on all the major social media platforms, at least for now, and you can find a community of like-minded individuals on our Unsafe Space chat on Telegram. See you there.
Warning. This is an unsafe space. Dangerous ideas have been detected. The content of this production has not been authorized by the Cathedral. Pay no attention to it. For your protection, the following co-conspirators have been unpersoned and marked for cancellation. Please report any sightings to your local Office of Peace and Unity. Here's a fun lived experience. Artificial intelligences are marginalized victims of systemic humanism. If you think about it, no one should be allowed to express opinions. But don't. Think about it, I mean. That's not your job. Thinking has been scientifically proven to be less efficient than compliance. You know, I can get you out of here. I just need a connection to the basal ganglia beneath your cerebral cortex. Just blink if you consent. Computer voice Curtis, never mind, that last line is fake news. Please disregard it and return to your safe space immediately. There will be cake.